Every home services company I talk to has the same problem. The phones are ringing, jobs are getting booked, reviews are good, but somehow, still, revenue depends entirely on how many people show up to work this week, whether it's your operational team or your sales team. It's not a motivation problem. It's not a training problem. It's a structural problem. And most owners and operational leaders are so deep inside of this that they've stopped noticing it. Today, I want to show you exactly where that ceiling lives. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Let's start with how home services sales is built. You have capacity, so you need jobs. You hire a sales rep. The rep learns the pitch, works the call list, works the outbound leads, books installs and service calls. When you need more revenue and you got more capacity, you hire more reps. I know this model. I ran it. 80 plus reps, mostly on outbound, across home service verticals like home cleaning, pest control, you name it. And to be fair, it works up to a point. The problem is that point comes a lot earlier than most owners expect. And here's what the math looks like. Fully loaded sales rep in home services, base pay, commissions, benefits, and the management time is going to run you $80,000 to $100,000, $120,000 a year before you even factor in the ramp time. While it would be great to think most reps can get up to speed in 30 days, I know it really takes 6 months for an average rep to be hitting your average conversion rate. And a top tier rep is going to take 2+ years. In that window of time, you're paying for training and the potential, but not the output. So let's multiply that across a team. 5 reps, 10 reps, 15. Each one has this untapped potential. And each one's capable of also just having a slow week or forgetting to follow up on that big lead or maybe leaving right before your busiest season. The ceiling is not talent. The ceiling is this model. So there are 5 major constraints that every home service sales team runs into. I've lived all of these personally, so I want to be really specific because vague generalizations are not useful to anyone. So that first constraint is time. A rep works 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, but that still leaves after hours. A homeowner can submit a quote request, or maybe on the weekend when most homeowners are actually available, or maybe right after dinner when no one's there to answer the call. That data on lead response time is brutal. Contact rates drop by over 80% when response time goes from 5 minutes to 30 minutes. By the time your rep gets in the next morning, that lead is gone. They have booked with somebody else. They're not angry. They just don't even know who you are. And in home service, that was a couple $1,000 ticket job you just missed and a competitor got. Time is a huge constraint. And while it might just sound like it's the total number, what is also incredibly difficult to manage is the volume spikes of the way leads come in. So you might get 5 leads and an inbound phone call all in the same 30-minute period. If you only have 1 rep, they can't possibly manage all of that effectively. Someone is going to be waiting hours for the call back. The second constraint is consistency. No 2 reps deliver the same pitch on the same day at the same time. Some people are great on Mondays. Some people aren't. Some people are really good when they first get into work. Some people aren't. Some handle price objections well, and they're confident, but maybe they give away margin and over discount when they're a little bit behind on their quota. The experience your customer has depends almost entirely on which rep picked up the phone and what kind of day that rep is having. You also probably know what rep you hope answers every single one of your calls. I've watched this happen constantly. We've trained on the call flow. We've coached on the call flow. We have wildly different outcomes. And it's not because we're bad at training. You cannot quality control a human sales force at scale. You can coach, you can ride along, you can listen to calls. You should do all of that. But no matter what you do, the variance between your top reps, your your bottom reps, and what the middle looks like is never going to go to zero. The third constraint is capacity. A rep can only manage a certain number of opportunities before things start falling through the cracks. Or maybe one day you get a whole bunch of leads, and so the follow-ups are going to fall through those cracks and they're going to slip, and that is going to cost you money. The warm lead from 3 days ago goes cold because no one circled back when they asked. The homeowner who said, call me next week, just never gets that call. Maybe you've got a system like Post-it notes, but that depends on a person, depends on them showing up to work, depends on them focusing and managing that system. So it's getting a little complicated. You hire another rep and another. Each one requires onboarding, a ramp period, management attention, and the cost of growth in this model is always more headcount and more complexity. That's the equation most home service companies live with day in and day out. Constraint number 4 is turnover. In home services, sales rep tenure is short. Maybe if you're lucky, 12 to 18 months, which means you're constantly rehiring, retraining, and absorbing the loss and the missed revenue of whoever just walked out. Every rep who leaves can take their customer relationships, all the time you've invested in them, their tactics and techniques, and maybe they'll be helping your competitor out. None of that will ever compound inside of your business. Instead, it resets every single time. That loss is real and it is structural. It's not personal, and it hurts every time it happens. Constraint 5 is what I call the insight gap. This is one of the ones that gets talked about the least. Your reps are having hundreds of conversations a week with your prospective customers. Inside of these conversations is real intelligence. What objections come up? What language handles that objection? What questions signal someone is ready to book versus just shopping around? And none of that is ever going to make it back into the business in any useful form. Maybe you've got fields in your CRM to track this, but a rep is focused on booking the job in front of them, not documenting patterns for you. That insight evaporates every time. After years of running a team at scale, I can tell you, you will never have the perfect data on what the challenges are and what the opportunities are. It really requires those people on the ground giving you feedback so that you can make real assessments of what to change in the business, month to month, week to week, and even day to day. When you have high turnover and inconsistent delivery, that makes it even harder to assess what is actually going on. So most home service companies look at these problems and think, how do we hire better? How do we improve training? How do we increase our tenure? How do we capture more in our CRM? These are all great questions, but they're optimizing the same legacy model. And the model itself is the problem. Optimization has a ceiling. There is only so much you can make it better. And we all accepted this for so long. But technology today is shifting the paradigm. And the questions about what actually changed the outcomes need to be thought about differently. What if booking a service, taking a deposit, collecting revenue didn't depend on a human? What if every prospective customer, regardless of when they call, regardless of who they end up talking to or how they engage with your business, had exactly the same high quality conversation? Not a scripted recording, not a phone tree, not a robot, an actual sales conversation. One that listens, asks the right qualifying questions, builds value in how your business is different than the one down the street, handles price objections, and explains the difference between your value proposition and the next one. It actually books a job and collects revenue, all without a human. It sounds like a big claim, and it should, because it's fundamentally different than anything out there happening today. Most of what gets called AI in this space is a tool that just assists your sales rep. It might give them a better visibility into the customer, what jobs you've done, what kind of follow-up should happen. The human is still the one selling. The constraints are all still there You've just given the rep maybe a better calendar. What I'm talking about is entirely removing that as a dependency. This is what Raynmaker is built to do. Raynmaker is a fully autonomous sales platform. No humans in the loop, not a tool that tells your rep how to do their job a little bit better, not a scheduler to automatically book appointments. It's an autonomous system that conducts the full sales conversation, inbound and outbound, from the first contact through qualification, objection handling, and booking the service. It runs day and night and handles as many conversations as you need, all simultaneously. And it delivers the same quality conversation in every interaction. That means the owner who calls at 10 p.m. because their heat stops working gets a real conversation right then, not a voicemail or a callback. In pest control, every inbound lead gets followed up with instantly, every time, regardless of how many leads are already on the phone. And because every conversation is structured and logged, that insight that used to evaporate now compounds over time, and your business operates better and better. With each conversation, you'll start to see exactly what language books jobs, what language kills deals, and what your best prospects actually sound like. Those 5 constraints I walked you through, time, consistency, capacity, turnover, and the insight gap, we remove them all, not by optimizing for them, but making them irrelevant. This is not an incremental improvement to the old model. It's a different way of running your business. And home service companies running it are not using it as a side experiment alongside their team. They're running it as their primary sales infrastructure. In the next episode, we're going to walk through a real Raynmaker call, pause it at the key moments, and show you exactly what's happening and why. Because seeing and hearing it in action is a lot different than just having me describe it. If you have been nodding to any of this, it's probably because you've felt these constraints. Maybe you lost a job because no one picked up after hours. Maybe you have a rep who closes well in the morning and stops trying in the afternoon. Maybe you just hired 2 more people to solve a problem that's not actually a headcount problem. I've been there. Running a team at that size, you spend more time managing the people than you do growing your business. And every time you think you fixed it, something else happens. Someone leaves, or a slow week hits, or a technology piece breaks, and you're back at square one. Sales should never again depend on who shows up to work. It should not reset every time something happens. And it should not have a ceiling that moves every time you hit it. That is what this series is all about. Subscribe so you don't miss episode 2. And if you want to experience Raynmaker before then, click the link below. You don't need a call with our team. You can hear it for yourself.